Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Little Pricks Podcast.
Greetings and salutations.
We have our resident alien, Devin.
Greetings.
And we have me, the man receiving a phone call from his mother.
Nice, dude. I like how it's like a picture of her however long ago, too. Like, it's not even an up-to-date photo. It's like some shit you found.
We never ignore Mom's phone call. Hi, Mom. Yes, Mom. Because we always take Mama's phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are back.
We're back. We're here to talk about things.
I'm back in black.
Come on. Back in black.
I hit the sack.
Come on.
Oh, don't you know I'm glad to be back as I
let loose from the noose. Come on. Don't get me wound up in this episode. Shit.
Little AC/DC.
God, I haven't listened to AC/DC in forever,
Which is funny because that's what I'm dealing with in the garage.
Oh, yeah. The scooters.
It's actually DC to AC, but yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Start a tribute band, DCAC.
DCAC.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get DCMA'd.
Nope. Probably. Cease and desist. No C&D. Nice.
So today's topic.
What are we talking about? Tell the people.
Tell the people. It is called spending time with yourself to find yourself.
No way, dude. That's how it's done?
That's how it's done.
Wow. Look at that, guys. Brought to you right here, Little Pricks Podcast. Now you know.
Brought to you by Vibrance Automotive.
And pain.
And suffering. Yes.
Come on.
This is our nice little sponsor placement right here.
Really?
Yes.
Are we doing that?
Yes.
Why?
Because if you need to get your therapist, your car needs to work properly.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And to do so,
Good
come to
on
Vibrance
ya.
Automotive to get your car, vehicle, truck, light-duty vehicle, whatever it is, repaired, maintained, and taken care of. Ryan Reynolds.
That's great.
Do you know he has a marketing company?
That makes sense.
Yes.
I could see that.
He has a complete marketing company called Maximum Effort. Do you remember watching Deadpool?
Yeah.
What does he say?
I don't know. What the fuck?
What does he say when he's like, we're going to get this done? He screams, maximum effort. He has achieved the golden standard of like slipping in all of his brands into his movies.
Sure, but that's a little more nonchalant than like...
Completely, yes. Mine was a blatant overture of
Let's
beautiful.
do it at the end. Sure. Go ahead, buddy. Throw your fucking chapel in there. You go ahead.
When will we throw in BetterHelp?
When we talk to them.
No, I'm just saying, when would we in the conversation?
I don't know. I guess
when we're talking about therapy.
Probably.
Yeah, you slide it in. Slide it. So we did an episode before about healing with someone.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, I would say, the counterpart to this episode.
Or
which
part
is,
2, maybe.
This is actually part 1 to that part 2.
That's what I'm saying. Like the healing with somebody. Maybe it's part 2. I don't know.
That's
maybe
absolutely part 2.
Is it? Maybe it could be done.
Nah. You should figure yourself out before you involve someone else.
Yeah, that's like the saying you have to be healed to be in a relationship thing, or like have your shit figured out to be in a relationship, and that's not true. So I think...
Well, we dive into that into this episode, and then we can discuss those topics, right?
Okay, Freed, whatever. That's fine. I'll be patient, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. So, the time we take alone to discover who we are is, in my opinion, some of the most valuable time we'll ever have, as it helps us figure out who we are to the world.
That's a valid point. Sure. Okay.
So that's like the basis of that, right? And the world becomes very small when you bring in a partner, because they become your world in some ways, right? They become a very big part of your world.
Yeah, I become a big part of it for sure. That's fair.
Like when you have a girlfriend or a wife, you don't say, "I'm going to go do that." It becomes, "We're going to go do that."
Sure.
You know, or I have to make sure that it doesn't interfere with their lifespan.
Right, yeah, you have to be more considerate when you're making your decisions. Yeah, it's not all about you, man.
So I put it this way as like the thought process. It's imagine finding a person. And I want you to really imagine that. Imagine finding a person who likes the things that you like and enjoys laughing about the things that you laugh about. Imagine feeling emotions so wildly and vividly with someone who is confident in what they feel and enjoy. And what if you could form a partnership with someone who you felt could basically read your mind? And then the question becomes, what if that person could just be you?
Can be. I think it should be.
Should be.
Yeah, I think it should be. I think that when you do that, like it's more of like a self-soothing thing too. When you like be able to be somebody who can enjoy your own company and enjoy doing the things that you want to do. And I think that's the ways that like people sometimes get a bit codependent in relationships when they don't have this basis and they don't have this baseline. I think that's very much so how you get into codependent relationships, or ones where like your emotions, feelings, happiness, all those things ride the roller coaster of emotions of like maybe your partner, and like you can't stand alone on your own and have your own individuality and like your own ability to like the things that you like, you know.
And then the truth that becomes, how do you become that person?
Dude, it's just time, honestly. Just time. Like, I don't think that there are things that you can do to obviously like spend time with yourself, and like I think a lot of that involves cutting out your distractions for sure.
To be fair, that question was a setup for just that quick little snippet there. It's spending time with yourself.
Yeah, it's just time.
You have to take time and spend it with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I've heard a lot of in people ending relationships, and they always come out saying like, I don't know who I am.
Oh, yeah, I heard that one before.
I just don't know who I am, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I feel like you can definitely take care of prior to finding a partner. Figure out who you are, right?
That's fair. Or just not losing it in the relationship too. Like,
well, I think that if you figure out who you are, you start to find people that you can date that add to your life, and that you don't become their life.
Yeah, well, and you also learn things that like make you you, and those become things that you don't want to give up. Like the prime example for me is always like mountain biking or, you know, something like that. Like I don't want to give those things up. That is who I am.
You need an identity.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You need an identity, and that, you know, like some of the simple things, like what are some of your likes and dislikes?
It
like,
sounds simple, yeah.
Yeah, right? And maybe you can look at yourself like, sure, maybe I know some of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like, but really ask yourselves, like, what makes you feel the ick? Or what are some of the things that motivate you?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you, like,
you'd be surprised how many people can't answer that question. I couldn't answer that question for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, they sound like simple questions, but, like, the fact is, man, like,
they're not. You have to really recognize these things in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what are they for you? And then you have to sit there, and in my mind was really ask yourself, like, really sit down on the floor.
Sure.
And
on
just,
the floor.
Yeah. Like, take away stimulants, right? And then go, do I know these things about myself?
You'd be surprised.
And I think chances are, if you haven't spent very much intentional time with yourself, you probably don't know yourself all that well.
Yeah.
What you know are how you react to things around you.
Yeah.
You don't know who you are or why you react to things around you that way.
Yeah.
Or at all. So the conclusion I've come to in this is like a lot of us just truly don't know ourselves. And that when we go out seeking someone who completes us, not knowing ourselves, we don't really know what to look for.
Right.
If we haven't completed ourselves first. And completement isn't just like, I've made it to the end of the trail. I did it. Success. The top of the mountain.
Yeah.
It's not like that, right?
Well, yeah, right. Like that's not the journey anyway. Well, it is a journey, you know, like that is the thing. So it's like when you, enter partnerships or, you know, anything like that, like you said, without having prior completed these like milestones, I guess, and finding out who you are, like it's hard for you to, like you said, interact in a world that you don't know where you have a place in it, you know?
There's a couple of things that I like to like make up just how I think of things, right?
Yeah.
I had like 2 analogies.
Sorry.
They're coming to get me.
Oh, no, right?
They're finally here. They found me. I have a couple of analogies that I like to think about. One of them's like, we're like a little person silhouette of a person made out of Swiss cheese when you're complete, right?
Okay.
You're a silhouette. You're complete as a person,
Yeah.
but you have little holes in you that you can let someone else fill. You know?
Sure.
Or maybe to become a complete person, you become a cup that someone gets to fill.
Sure.
And if until you are a cup, there's nothing to fill. It shall just overfloweth or fall out of. right? Little analogies like that, like help me understand what I'm trying to accomplish, that I'm just the vessel here.
Okay.
Right? And that definitely comes into dating and why you eventually need to work on it with dating. But like, it's time to maybe rethink the equation. And that by taking time alone intentionally and getting to intimately know who you are the closest person to you. You need to become that person.
That is very true. Literally, you are the person you will spend the most time with. I don't care how close of friends you have, family.
That's where this came from. It's that statement you say.
Yep.
That's where that comes from, right?
That will always be the person you spend the most time with. So you better figure out how to interact with, love, accept that person. Because, like, they're not going away. You're going to be up here forever.
Yes.
Forever you're going to be up here. So learning to be in a place where you love who you are and accept who you are. I think... Dude, the times that I've spent alone, like I've spent years at a time alone before, especially when I first came to Tucson. I did everything alone, and some of that was a little bit too far. Like you can take that too far, and you can like isolate, but those were some of the most formative times in my entire life where I found out the most about myself. And some of that was through therapy, and some of that was through just like doing stuff alone, like having that feeling of being at a concert all by myself and having fun anyway, or, going on a hike and seeing something beautiful and just taking that moment in all for myself. And I realized that like a lot of the things that I needed to sort out did exist in the space that I had with just me and like my headspace and my opinions of myself, or like these internal monologues with myself. Like that, there's a lot of importance in that. And not even just relationships. Like I don't even want to like be hell-bent and super focused on relationships and, finding yourself for that reason. Like, again,
I would say any relationship, not just dating.
Right. Friendships, romantic relationships. And again, it's just like the relationship with yourself. Like I didn't start to uproot the deepest traumas in my entire life until I spent that time with myself. And again, like you can't go too far with that, but like don't allow that potential thing to hold you up from spending some of that time alone. Like it's not necessarily isolating as long as you're eating, you're being healthy, you're getting good rest, you're seeing friends once in a while. I just mean like, hey, take the time, go alone, just go to the concert alone, go to whatever event alone, go on a hike with letting people know where you are. Don't get too dangerous with going on a hike by yourself, but it's important. It was the most life-altering times in my life for sure.
Yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
So like that can become a daunting task.
It is. No, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It is.
And so the conclusion I came to is I want to make everything formulaic, right?
Sure.
The place to start is understanding what our goal is. Like sit down, identify what your goal is.
Right? That part I think I struggle a little bit more with because I'm like, what's the goal? Find yourself, and what the fuck does that mean?
I'm not going to say find yourself. It's I want to know myself as best as possible. Then you start to ask yourself, okay, great. What does that mean?
Right. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
So everything must root down to a purpose or core. And I put some example questions here, right? We must ask ourselves, what do we want to know about ourselves? Okay. Our objective now is, what do we want to know? How about, how do we perceive the world around us? That's a question.
That's
right?
fair.
And that usually is going to root down to what experiences have we had that color our views.
Because that's really what it is, right? Like nobody's ever born with preconceived notions or worldviews, ever. Never, ever. Those are all learned.
So what are some of our views?
Yeah.
What are some good experiences that we've had?
Yeah.
Versus what are some traumatic experiences we've had?
I think the problem for me is my go-to is always like the bad ones. Like the default is like, what is my worldview? It's always the default of like, well, X, Y, and Z of negative things. But then like it's just hard to off the bat focus on the positive.
In fact, let's do this a little bit more intimately. Yeah. I want you to look at a core memory of yours.
Yeah.
Pick a core memory. One that you could just think to yourself, like, okay, that's a thing I remember.
Yeah.
That was positive.
Yeah.
What's one?
When I was a kid, me and my brother would ride dirt bikes and stuff together. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I remember vividly, there was like a picture of me on my little Yamaha Blaster and then my brother on my DRZ.
Yep.
It was cool.
I have a core memory too. For me, it was playing with my dad.
Yeah.
Right? There was two of them. We ran once in a field.
Okay.
Just running, racing each other. We'll never forget that. He
cool.
never, in my memory, he never did it again. I don't know if we did.
Yeah.
But like from there on out, my memories go to like, oh, he just didn't want to run anymore because he's aging, growing up, you know?
Sure.
And the other one was my dad, again, just like throwing me on the bed, picking up this little human, throwing me at the bed.
Yeah.
And I get off like, again.
Dude, my dad used to take us, like my grandparents had a swimming pool. He would get us, like press us up like this and then like helicopter us into the pool. Like, I am not kidding. Like literally like spin us fast, you know, and just like...
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just going to helicopter my child into this pool. He shall auto-rotate on his way down.
Yeah.
And then let's find like a core memory that's bad.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I don't know. Mine are too dark, but...
Pick one.
Nah.
Pick one that works for you.
Nah.
You have to have something that you're comfortable talking about, man. Like, that's the point of this. Let's talk about our mental health and not talk about it at all.
Well, I mean, mine's just like fucking hell.
Yeah.
You done?
No.
You done?
I'm letting you think.
Goodness gracious. You go first. Let me think for a minute.
They're harder for me.
Yeah.
I don't hold on to that. And there's good reason for it, right?
Yeah.
It's that we tend to block out trauma.
Yeah.
We tend to block out.
Yeah. Traumatic amnesia is a very, very real thing.
Very real thing.
Yeah.
I think for me, a big one was core memory here is remembering my grandfather dying.
Yeah.
And I remember being in Phoenix with my father and my uncles and my mother being in Mexico, sitting next to him. And then we get in the news that, time to get up and go. We have to go down to Mexico. He's passing.
Wow.
And just being like, not processing that properly as a child, going like, the only thoughts were, why the hell are we here?
Yeah.
Why weren't we there the whole time? I was old enough to be like, why was I not there?
Mm.
And it was just like their time to spend with him kind of a thing in his last moments. And when I got there, I remember the pain of sitting in the corner of a church crying as they're talking about who he was, and then following the procession, which felt like the entire town just followed him because he was the town doctor.
Wow.
Yeah, so like the entire town just following his hearse as we went to his final, resting grounds. And I remember that very vividly.
Wow.
It was like a camera was watching me. That's how I remember it, is me watching me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's a very core memory. Another core memory I have that's sad is like remembering a little girl picking on me. Yeah.
Okay.
Her name was Stephanie.
Oh, no.
Little girl Stephanie.
Stephanie, come on now.
Yeah.
Come
And
on.
my core memory on that one is like she was actively picking on me, and all I could think about are how bad her feet smelled.
Oh.
And so like I remember looking down at her feet going, she's wearing sandals. And so like from then on out, I just hate sandals on people. It grosses me out.
Oh my God, I'm buying sandals immediately.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, buddy.
Yeah. I just remember like looking at her. She was like saying just awful things to me, and I didn't process them. I just processed how bad her feet smelled in those sandals. And now like I just associate someone picking on me or bad attention with those sandals that stink. And so that is 100% why I have no foot fetish.
Wow. Nice. Here we are.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
But core memories. I think it's your turn. I can't let it off the hook, man.
No, that's fair. I think for me, probably no contact. Going no contact with my parents a couple years ago. That was pretty rough. Because it's like one of the, again, everybody always thinks that there's some kind of like punitive statement. It's like, oh my God, how could you do that to your parents? Be like, bitch, this is the last thing I wanted to do. Are you shitting me? This is awful. This is absolutely horrific to have to separate from people that are supposed to love you and that you're supposed to feel close with and be like, you know what? I'm better off not talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty rough.
So on that one, right, we now have a couple of positive memories that color us in a certain way.
Sure.
And a couple of negative memories that color us in a certain way.
Yeah.
And that leads us down to like, how do we perceive loving relationships?
I think a lot of that has to do with the negative influence or negative experiences we've had, especially for me in particular, of like not having that foundational relationship with my birth givers. I think that I struggle.
I'm going to say that they're based on both sides of it. I'm not going to say just negative because it's unfair.
Yeah.
Right? But they're based on both, right? I perceive loving relationships to be very touching and affectionate, and like that's all I know, right? Like I haven't seen relationships that were not loving and touching and intimate in that way. So whenever I am in a romantic relationship or even friend relationship, I'm touching, I'm affectionate, I'm like, that's what formed me and shaped me, and I recognize that. That's part of like taking time to understand who I am, right? And then you have to ask yourself a thing like, how do we love ourselves?
That's the big one, right? Like that had the biggest influence on how I interacted with and carried myself in the world and in relationships of any regard, right? Like when my self-esteem and like my self-love was so tumultuous and like just rough and or just non-existent at times, like it was hard for me to exist in a healthy dynamic in regard to boundaries, in regard to communicating my needs, in regard to being a better partner and loving in ways that were important to them, because I at baseline had so many needs that were unmet, which a lot of which were on me at times, you know. So that's a big question. That's one that I think deserves a lot of attention.
And these are questions that you as the viewer should be asking yourself, right?
Yeah.
We do that. I have to ask myself, how do we love ourselves?
Yeah.
For me, it's allowing myself to explore my mind constantly.
Mm.
It's like me just shutting it up is not giving it the love it needs.
Wow. That's
It's not
fair.
who I am. People, why do you keep asking questions? Because like that's what I need to do, right? I need to understand. It's a form of control, but that's how I feel safe, right?
Yeah.
We all feel safe when we're in control. But
Valid.
my form of control is not like I need to control all of it. I just need
Right.
to control like my thought process and how do I resolve an issue.
Yeah.
That's it. And that really becomes beneficial for me, right? It just makes me feel better. The other very, very important question is, what are our core values?
Okay.
That's like a question that you need to really dive deep in with yourself. What are your boundaries? What are the things that you're like, I will not do that?
You know, that's changed so much for me, especially recently. It's really funny, right? Like you get on paper, it sounds really good to know these things, and it sounds really good to like, and I'm not saying, you know, as a disclaimer before I get into this, I'm not saying to not have any boundaries. I'm not saying to not have any like goals of what you want out of your own life or what you want out of a person that you want to be with or anything like that. But what I am saying is that like I did this exercise in therapy, actually. It's like, well, what do you want out of a partner? And like I made these lists, and as I have found that as I get closer to someone, like that kind of fades, and what I realize is that like this list or these like check boxes of things are a lot smaller and less specific than I originally thought that they were going to be or that they needed to be, right? Like I think you know, a recent conversation I had is that, hey, how do we need to navigate? Like I wanted to be in a dynamic where I didn't have to pull all of the emotional load, right? Like, and that came down to not necessarily someone needing to have been in therapy for a certain amount of time or someone that was like this like prerequisite amount of self-awareness or anything like that. It came down to a simple statement that this person said where they were like, bring it to the table and let's just figure it out. I don't know how we're going to do it.
That's pretty.
I don't know how we're going to do it, but like, I promise you that like, if you bring it to me, like I will sit at the table and we will figure it out. Like, and that was really powerful, right? Like, and I think that, again, it's good to have these goals and it's good to sit down and it's good to figure out like what you do and don't want, like deal breakers, right? Like in a relationship and a friendship, like have deal breakers, but like,
I think you took it in a different direction that I had in mind, but
Oh,
I like
okay.
it. I like it.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
When I say what are our... Oh, no.
What? What?
I need battery. Like right now.
Okay. I mean, I got the screen. I can watch.
We're good.
Okay.
Okay. So when I say core values, what are the things that down deep rooted to our core make us us. Right? What are the things that you think, like if you had ingredients,
Yeah.
you put them into a little mixing bowl?
What was that?
That was Osmo stopping.
I don't think so, was it? Is it out of space on the SD card?
Yeah.
Is it really?
It is. It's okay. You gotta delete some stuff. So my analogy being like, if we had your ingredients, we put them into a little bowl,
Right.
and we just started mixing them up, put them in the oven.
Making little pop-ins for our Pokemon.
Yeah. And we put them in an oven.
I don't know why it made me think of that.
And then like, you put them at 350 for like 20 minutes, a Devon pops out.
Right.
And I think for me, some of my core values that I've established are like, I'm a person that clearly communicates or has the desire to clearly communicate.
Yeah.
As he tells me to put the microphone closer.
Yes.
Communicate more clearly.
Yes.
I don't want to be heard. So that's a good one, right? Like, I'm a person that has such a deep-rooted desire to communicate that I want to make sure things are done clearly.
Yeah.
That's like an ingredient you grab off the shelf and you go,
yeah,
put that in there. Okay, what's another core value that I have? Is that I want to resolve things in the most amicable way possible. Hopefully listening to both parties and not coloring it with prejudice.
That was something else I saw recently, and it said that there's something to be said about coming to the realization that after having a discussion with somebody, that neither of you were wrong and both of you were just in seeing each other's perspectives and realizing that neither one of you were wrong and that you were just feeling the way that you were feeling for that reason, and that little communication solves all those issues,
I like that.
Yeah.
Another core value that I have is I want justice. I want fairness. I want people to feel that whatever situation is going on, it is fair and it is just. That is something that I strive in all of my practices and my doings.
Yeah.
That is a core value. I also have a core value of like, I don't want to jump to anger as my first reaction. But I also know the balance of it.
Yeah.
My counterbalance, that is, you can do whatever you want to me. I will not be angry.
Sure.
But if I watch you do it to someone close to me, I understand that, like, the gloves come off real fast.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. But my core value is to try to go into it without anger. Right? I'm very careful. I give people the benefit of the doubt.
What is humming like that? Sometimes the phones do it.
This is a really quiet room.
No, man, it just started for sure.
Okay. So yeah, I've come to a place of like, I know my core values. I don't like to do things that, another one is in the fairness side of things, right?
Yeah.
I don't like to do things for myself that cause harm to someone else.
That's pretty impossible to do, man, but
I
think.
But my mentality is I will go into this to the best of my ability to not do something that will harm someone else at my pleasure.
Yeah.
Right? If it makes me feel better.
You're not going out there intentionally trying to mess anybody over for your gain, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Right? Like cheating, for example.
That's fair. Yeah.
Like, that's a good one, right?
Yeah.
If you are cheating on someone, you are getting your pleasure at someone else's expense.
Yeah, for sure.
Won't play that game. Don't like it. Those are, a little brief synopsis of some of my core values.
Okay.
And that helped me figure that out by being alone. And so the question really becomes down to like, what do we gain from figuring it out on our own? What do we gain by taking time for ourselves?
I think that kind of loops us back to the beginning of the episode where we talk about like it helps you understand and feel more. I think the thing that happened for me is I felt more comfortable in my own skin.
Mm-hmm.
I understood my place in the world better, and I understood myself better, and I wasn't looking in other people as much for the things and the holes and the thing, like those things in my life that needed filled.
Yeah.
Like I was just more sure of myself, and that helped me. Again, exist in the world better and be more comfortable in my own skin, but it also helped me know what exactly in life I was looking for. It helped me orient my energy and my ambitions towards goals that I know that I personally wanted instead of looking for that kind of direction somewhere else or in somebody else, or anything like that.
I think for me, I did take the time to be alone.
Yeah.
I was very vocal about it. You got to watch me do it.
Yeah.
Right. And it changed my perception on who I am. What is it that I do?
Yeah.
It changed my perception of what I'm able to accomplish too.
Sure.
Right. Like I started boxing. I've been very vocal about like the no pornography thing. I can't stand that now. Like the further away I get from it,
wow,
the more angry I become at the fact that it exists and the detriments it creates. Like there's definitely benefits to everything. But like it upsets me that like it's a thing that's too easily abused.
I think that's how I feel about alcohol at this point. Yeah.
I've become a person who has a lot more discipline.
Yeah, sure.
Willpower as well, but my rule on willpower is that willpower breaks. Discipline keeps you from having to use willpower.
That's right. Yeah, if you rely on motivation, good luck. You're not going to have it.
It's an
discipline's
exhaustible
the thing that's going to get you
resource.
there. Yeah.
And so for those that don't understand, like I took 9 months away after a breakup to like really focus and hone in on myself and just reset.
Yeah.
And in that time frame, I focused on my faith, something I really wanted to do for a very long time. That faith helped me become more disciplined because the faith itself required discipline.
Yeah.
And that discipline I was able to transfer over to other things, such as avoiding pornography, doing things that just weren't very conducive to my well-being. I've improved my sleeping habits. I've improved my overall health. But it all took time to be alone.
Yeah.
Because in that time, I was not talking to women. I was not seeking women. If an opportunity presented itself for a relationship with sort of the woman, I was just like, no, thank you, not now.
Wow.
Like I just shut it down.
Yeah.
It's not for me at this time.
Wow.
And then, which I never thought I'd be that guy, right? I thought I'd be opportunistic. If it knocks, I shall open the door. And I said, no.
Yeah.
Put that down. And that showed me a lot of things about myself and what I'm made of and what I can be made of.
No doubt.
And so I think right there is a very, very important just outcome you can achieve by setting an objective and deciding this is what I'm going to do. And man, I'm a different person from who I was.
Sure.
It's actually now been a year.
Yeah.
And then at the 9-month mark, I want to say, I finally said, okay, I transitioned from self-healing and being alone to dating. And I will say it made my dating process a lot better. It came to a point where I was able to go on a variety of dates. I traveled the world dating.
I remember when you went to Europe. Yeah, that was crazy.
I went to Europe to date people. I went to the Middle East and dated people. Like I had a lot of fun, but I knew what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I knew what wouldn't work and what kind of chemistry does work. And it was really interesting, right? I came back to the US. I did more dating here. And I was able to like objectively look at people and say like, hey, that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Like I can flex and bend and chameleon all I want, but if I have to do too much of it, it's not a relationship that's going to be long-term sustainable.
Sure.
And then, I've been able to see what people I do get along with. And it's led to me like dating wonderful people, now dating a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Right? So like, but it took time to get there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have done it had I not taken just time for myself.
Yeah.
But so in depth, just beating my own brains in like, it's just me time.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever done.
It's scary. It's really scary. But once you're immersed in it, it's really healing.
Yeah.
It's really healing. And it becomes easier too, like I said. And it just like, it's one of those experiences that I would compare to getting sober. Like I was terrified to do it. I was terrified that if I did, that I wouldn't be able to have that like little icebreaker, that little like pick me up I needed to be social and to be extroverted and things like that. And I think that people think that if they similarly, if they take this time to spend time with themselves and get to know themselves, that they'll isolate or they'll be alone forever. But the reality is, man, like once you get there, you realize that everything's fine and you learn a lot about yourself and all of these things that we've talked about and how that snowballs into other aspects of your life, like dating or friendships or just interacting in the world or being more comfortable in your own skin. Like you'll realize as you spend this time with yourself, you have the discipline to do it. You have the discipline to keep away the distractions, regardless of what they are. You have the discipline to like really dig deep and reach inside of yourself and be vulnerable with yourself. Like you'll come out of the other side of this experience a completely different person, and it's amazing. It's beautiful.
Nice.
It's hard. It is challenging, but like it's so freaking worth it, man.
So what was your journey like? Because you took some time alone.
Well, like I said, my journey was like going out places and doing stuff on my own. Like I felt so out of place like that previously. And like I said, I felt uncomfortable in my own skin. And I felt like if I didn't have alcohol to kind of break the ice and that tension of anxiety, if I didn't have friends with me at the concert, I would like look a certain way or like look like a freaking loser or something. But like the reality is, man, like it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And like, I have other friends that are, sober now, and like you definitely don't drink. So like that's nice to have. But like at first I did do that alone. Like I'll never forget the first time I turned down a drink. Like everybody around me was, and I was like, nah, man, I don't drink.
You know what my interesting experience with that is?
What?
I get asked to go do drinks a lot.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't. I think people just know. Like that's a big part of who I am.
To be fair,
so.
I meet a lot of people on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And so like usually new people like, hey, do you want to go grab a drink? And I'll be like, no. I don't drink. I'll sit with you. I'll have a nice Diet Coke. And we can talk.
Old DC, baby.
And then the reaction I get out of people is just so interesting. They're like, wait, you don't drink? I'm like, no. And they'll be like, well, I was only offering a drink because that's like what's normal. Cool, we don't have to be normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I'd like to have as a Diet Coke too. And maybe have some wings. I'm like, cool, we can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it like allows people to have this different dynamic with me. They're like, wait, you don't want to do alcohol?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so that's really funny too.
But yeah, that's my journey. I think that, you guys can do it too. Like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and act like this is easy stuff. This is something that's it's scary, it's painful, it's challenging.
Sour.
But, it's worth it. It's always worth it. Just pursuing yourself is always worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
It always will be, and I encourage you to do it. We're here for you. We love to hear from you guys. Please do more of that. Please email us, littleprickspod@gmail.com.
We love your emails.
Yeah, we love the emails. And people do. People reach out sometimes, and we always appreciate that. We always shout you out. And
we want to make sure that we bring up topics that are relevant to you guys and relevant to us.
Sure.
And maybe things that are uncomfortable to talk about and just bring them to light.
Yeah.
That is our goal, right?
Yeah.
Talking about the things people don't talk about.
That's right. Come on. So yeah, you guys can do it. I'm proud of you already. You got this.
Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment on the mustache.
Come on. Godfrey does have the new getup. Check it out. Focus in on the camera. I'll zoom in right here. Tough.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys again next week.
Yep. We love you guys.
Till then,
See you later.
adios.
Boy.
Boy.